Hi, welcome to my studio. My name is Emily Passman, and I'm going to be showing you a short demo today about using wet-on-wet watercolor on watercolor paper. This is a piece of Arches 140-pound paper that I have taped on, and I'm making it very, very wet so that when I start dropping the watercolor, it's almost as if it paints itself. I'm really, really soaking the paper, and the tape will allow me to find a beautiful white border at the end. I'm also going to spray the palette. The wells in the palette have been filled with mostly Winsor Newton watercolors, and I spray them in order to bring them alive again. The wonderful thing about watercolor is that even once they've dried up, you can bring them back to life by spraying them. Of course, I have my cappuccino nearby, which is nice. So a very wet brush, a lot of water, digging into the orange paint. I merely start to drop in the colors. You'll notice that I use very little sense of brushwork back and forth and back and forth. I'm really just dropping colors in. Sometimes a calligraphic line, sometimes I fill a space, but rarely do I spend a whole lot of time in one place going back and forth, because that's what's going to create mud. My thought about watercolor and creating mud, which seems to be a lot of people's frustration with it, is that I truly believe that creating mud is not about a particular color. I don't think there's any such thing as a muddy color. I think it has to do more with time. I think when we go back in and brush over one place many times, I think it's that which causes the frustration of muddy areas. So I'm really letting the water do its work here. And, you know, it's been a very trying, frustrating, sad, and lonely time for a lot of us. And I'm finding that when I can concentrate on creating something, it relieves a lot of the stress and sadness of spending so much time alone. Sometimes I drop in a calligraphic line, and I really am just playing. I like these stripes that I'm creating now. And little by little, they will start flowing into one another, because the paper is still very, very wet. This very dark blue that I'm using, I think is called indigo. This is indigo. And now I'm dropping in some very staining cadmium red. I think the cadmium red in the Winsor Newton watercolors is the most staining color. And it's really starting to spread out and do its thing. I'm not going to go back in and touch certain areas because I don't want to create mud. So I'm working with some orange areas. I like areas that have complementary colors, so I do a lot of blue next to the orange. And I'm just working and seeing what unfolds here. There's some more red in the corner. This is more of a carmine, which is the blue side of red. And in a little while, I'm going to be adding more calligraphic lines to the center area. As things spread out and become more like washes, I find that when areas puddle a little bit more than I want them to, I can go and blot them. So here I am picking up some of the puddles, but I'm not rubbing. I'm just holding a paper towel there and allowing the water to be soaked up into it. Just taking a little bit of the wetness out. Need a little nourishment. Beautiful cappuccino. And I think I'm going to go back in and do some very dark calligraphic lines on some areas that have become more like washes. They started out as lines, but as they fed into other lines and as they blossomed, they became more like washes. And now I'm going to go back in and bring some more calligraphic lines. That's the sepia in the corner, dark, dark, dark brown. I really dig. I totally load up my brush. And just swirl it around. It's really a relief not to have rules. There's no rules here except keep the paper wet to start. Have good quality watercolors that you can dig into. And really do dig in there, because you won't get the richness of these colors unless you really allow yourself to load up the brush with them. I certainly can't wait to take this tape off. After it dries, I'll take the tape off. Thank you for watching.